The Lying Room. Revenge is a dish best served up in a lying room. Have you ever heard of a lying room? No? Well, that's because there is only one, and it is not on the market. Imagine what would be the consequences, foreseen or unforeseen, of such a thing getting into the hands of the silicon oligarchs. No, there is only one, and it's in my offices in a back lane of old professional premises in Seven Sisters, London. The faded sign on the brickwork over the Venetian blind-covered windows says O'Rourke and Son, undertakers and embalmers since 1902. Other than that, it is indistinguishable from any of the other offices in the back lane. Inside, though, what had been a large reception room for displaying corpses embalmed and ready for the 6-foot drop is now a seemingly hospitable, minimalist reception area with a lounging sofa and 2 chairs, a coffee table, a drinks bar shared with the kitchen, and a wall covered in photographs of this part of London in the early 20th century. This is where I now interview monsters. What about me? Well, I'm 33 years old, divorced from a posh knob who turned out to have been a frog disguised as a prince, a high-flying PhD émigré from the UK's cyber belt around Cambridge University. Fit as the proverbial, both in looks, mixed race, red hair, blue eyes, 5 foot 10 inches, and brain, IQ 180. I'm one of that rare species of human who, with a mobile phone and a laptop, doesn't have to get out of bed to extract rich pickings from the theatres of capitalism. Since this requires only a couple of hours a week, I have plenty of time to indulge myself in other ways. After exacting revenge via the lying room, I found I'd laid the foundation for a perfect AKA and occupation for a problem solver like myself, so I became Raven Black, forensic detective. I had the inner glass door of the lobby etched with my nom de plume and profession like those in noirish films of yesteryear. The room itself is a sophisticated, encephalographic masterpiece of cyber engineering. It is impregnated with nanofield sensors. The sofa, the paint on the walls, the mirrors, the lights, and even the carpet are smart data collectors. And the chair, well, that is pure genius. Sit in it, and it wraps a field around you, recording and relaying the spikes and troughs of your neural activity. The room is a ramped-up super lie detector. The data pillaged from the occupant of the chair via detectors of sound, movement, optics, scent, taste, and neural analyzers are aggregated by my AI program to provide a multidimensional picture of his or her truthfulness. It interprets the slightest twitch, eye flicker, intonation, sweat bead, or swallow. Unerringly, it locates every falsehood, no matter how minor. Do you remember the iconic scene in Blade Runner, where Deckard, Harrison Ford, applies the Voight-Kampff test to discover whether his interviewee is a replicant? My test is 1,000 times as effective and doesn't rely only upon left-field questioning to unhinge a guest. It pursues its prey along his or her river of consciousness, noting every whirl and eddy, the scenes on the banks, the detritus floating past, the life above and below the surface. At the end, it can tell me with quantum precision the degree to which this river is behaving as a natural phenomenon, or the degree to which it is a waterway polluted by untruths. I've already intimated why I originally built this temple to truth. I'll come to the matter of revenge in a moment. As I said, my whole traumatic story led me to becoming a private detective, which has proved to be a silver lining if nothing else. I provide a guaranteed secure service to my clients. I take on and execute contracts that require the utmost discretion. Not usually from the rich or the powerful, I hasten to add, but people who need information to be extracted from toxic individuals and organizations who have been blighting lives. I choose my clients after an AI analysis of a visual recording of their first-person description of the crimes against them. I do in-depth follow-up research. I decide whether to take on a contract on the basis of whether it is for the greater good. It sounds a bit romantic and Robin Hoodish, but it sums up my sense of identity and purpose. My clients might be activist groups, or independent politicians, or just plain and simple victims of evildoers. We sometimes never need to meet, but the contracts are fulfilled 100%. There is a law in espionage which runs something like security decreases in inverse proportion to the number of people in the know. The lying room is my personal secret. In all other respects, I appear to the general public to be an authentic private eye. Wherever possible, I interview in the room for obvious reasons. But I footslog. I go walkabout, interviewing witnesses. I examine crime scenes. What precipitated all this change of occupation was the day my mother was killed. I was devastated. You can imagine. The only child of a single mother, and then she is taken from me. It was ruled to be an accident. She had fallen asleep at the wheel, and her vehicle had been hit as it swerved by an oncoming car. It was so unlike her. I hacked into the police systems and found an interview with the driver of the other car. He was a member of Parliament, a junior minister in the Home Office. Something about his smug, entitled demeanour raised my hackles and suspicions. I was already developing the first crude version of my veracity program and ran his interview through it. In virtually every other sentence there were indications that he was lying. And there was a cover-up. He had not even been breathalyzed or had a urine sample taken. It took me a year to complete the room. Then, with all systems go, I arranged his abduction by two men who owed me big time, as he left a Mayfair club one night. They deposited him at the door, hooded and hands bound, then disappeared. What followed was as clinical as brain surgery. In fact, that's just what it was, brain surgery. I sat him in the chair and switched on the room. Like Descartes, I plied him with a mix of left-field, direct and contextual questions. Whenever he lied, there was a soft buzz and the chair vibrated. I paused and said, "The chair says you are lying." Over 5 hours, he became more and more like one of Pavlov's dogs. By the end, every buzz made him jump and blurt out the truth. Still hooded and absolutely under my control, his river of consciousness was slowly cleared of untruth. Then, in complete resignation, he gave an unblemished account of the fateful night. It was spoken in a clear, quiet tone, and no one could have detected that he had been under any duress. To sum up, he'd been drinking. It was he who fell asleep at the wheel. He had hit my mother's car as she swerved desperately to get out of his way. I contacted my two heavies and they took him from my door and dropped him off in the next street to his London dwelling. The moment they freed him, I released his audio account to mainstream and social media channels. As I had intended, there was too much incidental corroborative detail for him to refute it. Who would have believed he'd been abducted anyway? He resigned. A public campaign saw the police reopen the case. It was only the next day, as I sat in the room, that I thought, I could build a career around my temple of truth. Now what name shall I call myself? Well, that was The Lying Room. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. It helps this channel a lot. If you want to download more of my work, you can go to www.jacksanger.com, or you can go to Amazon Kindle. I'm issuing several novels as e-books and paperbacks over the next couple of months. So there it is. That's all for now. Go in peace. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.